As the U.S. grapples with a summer surge in coronavirus, a prominent group of doctors is recommending sending kids back to the classroom in the fall. Let's connect the dots. The American Academy of Pediatrics released a strong statement in favor of in-person learning in the coming school year. It says the goal should be to have students physically in schools when it's safe to do so. The group pointed out traditional classes are important for a child's development and well-being. It also cited mounting evidence that kids are less likely to spread coronavirus because they're less likely to contract it in the first place. The doctor did recommend instituting social distancing in class, plus new disinfectant procedures, hand washing, and the use of outdoor spaces whenever possible. But it said masks were not practical for elementary age students because it would lead to an increase in face touching. The group did recommend that adult staff members needed to be more careful since they're at a higher risk, and things like in-person staff meetings should be canceled. This comes as new research from Common Sense Media reveals nearly a third of students don't have the tech hardware or the internet access to successfully take part in remote learning. And it's not just the kids. The study also found 10% of all teachers did not have adequate internet access to teach from home.